Are you ready to party? Let's go.
Dr. Ashley Massimino. Welcome to the podcast, girl.
Thank you, Pamela.
Oh, man.
Dude.
You beat me to it.
She used a PhD against me, dude.
It's like, welcome.
Yeah, that's, we'll just say, I totally messed up when we were doing our sound check, and I called her Pamela, and I don't know why. Yeah, everyone's looked around like, wait, what? Who is that?
We were all confused.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, but Dr. Ashley Massimino, so glad you're here. We've been planning this for a while. Gosh, so we can kind of go back so people know, how did we even meet? How did you even hear about the podcast? Because it was kind of through that, right?
I have no idea. In fact, even when I bring on new people onto my podcast, sometimes I can't remember how I came across them. Blame it on the alcohol. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, because you contacted me to be on your podcast, which was rad. What is your podcast so people know?
It's called the Staff Assistant Podcast.
Let's go hit that bell, baby. Like, subscribe, listen to it, all major podcast platforms.
That's the staff assistant? Mm-hmm. Okay. Podcast.
Yeah, what's your podcast about?
We have so many coworkers that have committed suicide, and by we, I mean in law enforcement and in the correctional world. And so we just got tired of it, and we're like, we need to do something different than what's been done. So that was sort of the motivation to push into it and start it.
Okay.
With the goal of really normalizing therapy.
Oh, I love that you brought that up. So did you start your podcast pre-pandemic or during?
Probably like 9 months in is when we started. Yeah.
Okay. My goodness. And then you were down here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Like my whole life.
yeah, you were down here for a while. You moved away up north. I mean, yeah. Do you miss it being down here?
You know what? I would love to be able to say that I love the Sacramento area, but I really don't.
Oh,
Okay, let's just make a list.
I appreciate the honesty.
There's a lot of trash and there's a lot of homelessness. So it just looks very different. It feels different. But the most important thing is there's no restaurants. So literally we're going on like a food binge this weekend, just eating at all of our favorite places down here.
Oh,
There's nowhere to eat food up there. We've tried everything. And it's just, there's nothing. I feel like I've been eating cardboard for the last 3 months.
did you move up there for work?
For work, yeah. We both got promoted.
Oh, okay. So you're, at least you're, as far as law enforcement, you work with them as a psychologist, right? That's what you do?
I hate that I have to say this, but I do not represent any agency. I only represent myself.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, we have a legal disclaimer. We have to we do the same thing.
We also don't represent any legal agency.
Yeah, well, these
we only
opinions are
represent
our own.
ourselves.
Yeah, we won't even, yeah. We don't say who we work for, none of that stuff. We just keep
Absolutely.
it very sterile.
Yeah.
So-
I work in a correctional environment. I treat, well, not anymore. I'm a supervisor, so I supervise other therapists that treat inmates.
So are you the therapist for therapists? Or you just
No.
Okay.
I'm the supervisor of the therapists.
Oh wow. How's that?
Difficult, actually.
Really?
Almost as difficult as treating the inmates.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How many people do you have under you?
Right now it's 13, but we're really short-staffed. We're at about 39% staffing.
No way.
Yeah, so we're running all kinds of modified programs to try to see everyone. So I get pulled into the patient care because we don't have enough people.
Okay, so you're not for the correctional officers. You're for everybody.
We have a very small department that's growing for employee wellness, and there are a few therapists there, but it's very small.
Wow.
So did you start with the therapy side? So I don't know what the position would be called, but so now you're a manager, but before you spent time doing that. Now, were you specific to just the inmates at the correction facilities or like staff and whatnot as well?
No, that just started providing people for staff, I would say maybe a few years ago. So yeah, I've always been on treating the inmate side, but it's very obvious working in that environment that staff need the help.
Yeah, that's got to be your patience is probably amazing. Like as far as, you know, no,
Seriously,
I mean, let's
no,
be
you're
real,
right,
you know what I mean? Like, cause I feel like I'm sure it's like there's, you know, I don't want to say regular, you know, people, but then there's people that are incarcerated, you know what I mean? So it's like the backstories of those, I feel like a lot of times are probably a lot more complex than the day-to-day person. But when you were starting your career towards like therapy or in that field of that, was that kind of the first thing that you wanted to get into, or did you start in like other practices or so I don't really know a whole lot, so I apologize.
Yeah, I'm trying to
but
think back.
That long?
Yeah, I got out of school in 2008.
With your doctorate, right?
Mm-hmm. Pamela.
Yeah.
Dr. Pamela,
Yeah, that should be celebrated. That's a feat.
absolutely.
I don't remember. I think I always found it fascinating. I started off in a youth correctional facility. Many of those don't exist anymore, California Youth Authority. And I worked on a sexual behavior treatment unit, which is for sex offenders. And I was fascinated by that. But we did do very good treatment there. That doesn't exist anymore. So we're not providing sex offender therapy anymore in adult prisons. And we're hardly doing it at all in youth prisons.
Interesting.
Huh. Is that because of our current political climate?
I couldn't really tell you why. The curriculum exists and the training exists. We just don't utilize it. And I'm just not high enough up on the food chain to even understand why. But
It's not like a budget thing.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I'm like a peon there.
Just a cog in the wheel.
That's about where we're at.
Yep.
Just do what we're told.
There's almost nothing, and then there's peon, and then you start
Yeah.
creeping up.
They will go on without me, for sure.
Well,
Yeah, what
But-
made you want to get into that? It seems like, to be a psychologist and go into therapy, it seems like a long road to get to where you want to be. And what inspired you to do that?
I couldn't really tell you. I wish I could give you better answers to this. I felt, okay, I'm going to reverse a little bit. You know how in Twilight, Jacob was like attracted to Bella?
Dang it.
is that the wolf one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and he thought Bella was the one for him, but really when Bella had her daughter, like that's who he, I forget what they were, imprinted on.
that was yeah, nice.
I know I'm speaking to the wrong crowd here. Sorry.
No,
I'm
you're
right there
fine.
with you. I've seen all of them, so I know.
I have too. I'm laughing because
I'm
I'm
not
like,
gonna.
well, I don't
Let's
want
not
to
beat
say
around the bush. You're right. He imprinted
you
on
guys
her
don't
in the
wanna
first one.
acknowledge it.
Yeah, I didn't
So
want to
Jacob
acknowledge.
felt
You know exactly what I'm talking
he
about.
felt drawn to her no matter
Yes.
what, and he was like kind of her protector in a way,
Yeah.
even though she was more interested in the vampire character.
Right.
The Bad Boys,
forgot
right?
His name
Edward.
Edward. Sorry.
Yeah.
What's the actor's name that plays? He just did Batman. Who's the?
Shit.
You guys know who I'm
I love how
talking
we're all drawing a blank right now.
about. Anyway,
We're too old.
but yeah. So sorry.
Anyway, so I was drawn to go to this particular school, and I thought I should go there as an undergrad, and then I ended up not being able to go. But I realized I was supposed to go there as a grad student, and so I knew I was drawn into that. I didn't know anything about what I was getting into after that, and I just happened to fall into the right path.
My gosh, it seems like you had to do so much work to be able to be a psychologist and be like over other therapists. That's got to be a lot of hours of kind of like what we do, like when we go to become paramedics. We have to go and like start from the bottom and you train and you got to put in like hours to go to the hospital and you go to, labor and delivery. Then you got to go into the ER and then you got to go into surgery and practice this and that. I mean, did you have to do hours to work up to be able to do that?
You do need to have enough experience, I think, to navigate that setting. It's an unsafe setting, first of all. So my concern is always like I want everyone to be safe and to go home and be like mentally well.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Now, since you guys is therapy and mental health big in our law enforcement? Is that important to these police departments? Because we're seeing it now in public service, at least on the fire side. They're starting to finally realize, hey, this is kind of an epidemic in its own.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say the last I looked, I think it was last year, was suicide was the number one killer of firefighters. Could be different now, don't know, but that was the last I looked, which was a while ago.
Don't you guys use the counseling team international?
Yes.
I think your departments, whatever they are making better strides than ours because we still go for the lowest bidder with the EAP. Ooh. And so we're sending people to culturally competent clinicians that are taking like the lowest fee, to get reimbursed. And so I don't think but I don't think people at the top understand that either because they're not on the back end like I am.
Yeah.
Like they're not in private practice. I would never take an EAP client anymore.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to get paid less than half my rate if I take it.
Wow.
So it's like a pro bono case in my mind.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see what you're saying now.
That makes sense. Well, then, yeah. Well, I mean, those coincide. If the rates are cheaper, if that's what they're shooting for, then their quality of effective care is probably one and the same.
And I realize the Counseling Team International isn't perfect, and like all the therapists that are employed by them aren't perfect, but at least there's some cultural competency there.
Yeah. Now, are they encouraging the personnel to seek help if they need it?
They only push EAP. That's it.
Now, when you mean say only push EAP, they're not like putting up posters like, check this number out, or a correctional officer standing there in a picture like, I got help, you should too, stuff like that.
No. That's
See
not
that
happening.
But for us, that's relatively new. I would say.
Yeah,
I mean, not the opportunity to seek help isn't that new. I mean, I don't know, in the past 15 years, somewhere in the middle, I'm sure that started to kind of come around as a thing. But I'd definitely say in the last 2 to 3 years or so, the promotion of it has been a lot more prevalent. So, if there's stations, there's posters or, kind of things and like these hot topic things you have to kind of go over every month. There's always something like tied into that to, I mean, it's good training, but it's also good, like, kind of that reassurance of letting you know, like, hey, by the way, if you need to call and talk to somebody.
They're trying.
Yeah.
They're trying. Like, we get a lot of emails, and there'll be like a narrative, a story about when whoever was writing the email went and got help. Or we have these lunchtime seminars we can Zoom into, but no one has time.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have time to stop working and log into a 2-hour seminar.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, hopefully it still moves forward, right? That's the game plan, right? Because like at some point, one of these stories or something happened, and it's unfortunate, but it always seems like it's not until like the powers that be up top have some relatable instance that now it's important to them to make sure that happens. So whether it's like a family member or someone they're close to or whatever, someone takes their life, and let's say they're in law enforcement, fire department, some sort of public entity.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh shit, this has been happening for this long. This many people do it all the time. Like maybe we should actually take the millions of dollars that we have to funnel it towards something for help for these people. At least that's what I think happens, because
it's hard because our department is really focused on, and so are legislators, and so are lobbyists, and so is the community, on the inmates and the rehabilitation, that staff really get passed over.
So the inmates have precedence over.
Oh yeah, we're there so the inmates can program.
Wow.
We come to work so they can program. I come to work so that they can have access to mental health services.
Okay. But my thought is, it's great. Okay. Yes, we want the inmates to get help, but what about the people who have to pretty much look over the inmates? I mean, the reality is our corrections officers, God bless them, my goodness, I couldn't do that job. There's no way. But we need them. We have to have them, right? So how do you empower these people to deal with, you're dealing with pretty much people who've made some serious, serious mistakes.
Yeah.
Even, murder, whatever it may be. But what about our staff? What about the staff? Like the corrections officers, like take care of them, because you want people to stay, right? You want that longevity. I can see. Is there a high turnover rate in that job?
For medical staff, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why we're at 39%.
Jeez.
Think about it. It's a toxic environment. We can't take in anything that makes us comfortable. Like I can't take in my phone. I can't take in a lot of stuff. I can't take in a radio. I can't play music. Like there's no way for me to like turn on your podcast and like type my notes out.
Yeah.
There's no way to do that. The internet's blocked. The phones are blocked.
It is like completely sterile.
Yeah. I have fluorescent lights. I can't bring in a lamp.
Is there a camera? I mean, what do you do if you need help?
There's an alarm we wear in our belts.
You're talking about when you're in, are you talking about just being in the correctional facility in general, or this is when you're actually sitting down with someone to do therapy?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So it is like,
that's intense.
kind of a sad environment. Not sad is the right word. Not sad, but like
it's not comfortable. There's
nothing warm about it, right?
No. Like I have to wear. I feel like I always need to be able to run, even though I'm not running shit. But I need to be able to run or kick. Like that's how I always think. So I have to wear I wear shoes, like running shoes.
Well, it's smart on your part. I mean, hopefully other people think that way.
So stop me if you can't answer these things about the question, because I'm very fascinated with the therapy portion with the inmates, because
Sure.
I've never seen it, done it, or outside of like movie stuff. And I know that whatever you see on TV probably isn't even close.
What movie are you referencing?
I just like any of the thriller killer movies where they do like the therapy sessions, or like any kind of not
Girl Interrupted.
maybe. But you know what I mean? Like these intense like situations that, you're trying to, gain insight to the individual. And I know like, I mean, when we deal with patients, it's like you gotta make these kind of short-term connections relatively quick, right? You need the person to be comfortable with you.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine in your position where it's like, if you're doing this to try to gain ground, you got to start digging a little bit in the past of what's going on, and maybe the incident of why they're there, what builds up to being there. Like, how is it when because I'm assuming you get a little backstory on who you're, like all the
we have
information.
files.
Right. And now it's like, say, like, hey, I'm talking to, like, I don't want to say crazy because they're not crazy.
Mentally ill.
We'll say mentally ill. Yeah. Severely.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What is that like, that first couple minutes, like opener question wise? If that's something you can talk about, non-specific, obviously, but I just find that super.
It's got to be intense.
If they're like truly mentally ill, the only difference between them and every other mentally ill person that I've met is that I know there's a greater potential for violence. That's the only difference. But there's a lot of games the inmates play. And so I don't usually have to deal with this in private practice, but most of the time there's usually some motivation. There's something they're going for, and we don't know what it is. So they could be presenting as if they're mentally ill, or presenting as if they're depressed, in order to get like a housing change or a bed move, or to get moved to another institution, or maybe they have drug debt or canteen debt, or who knows what kind of debt, and they need to get off the yard. And so they know if they appear this way, they'll get moved.
Okay.
And so a lot of the times we're just trying to like sort out like, okay, what's really happening here? And is this really what's going on?
Right. If they're really seeking some sort of therapy benefit, or is it just a bogged down time move? Huh. That's so crazy. Like,
that's like 90% of the people that we see.
How long were you in the field doing this? Like with like therapy to inmates?
Probably 12 years.
So was there like I'm sure in the beginning, like, again, trying to bridge the gap of the professions here, but like when you first started running calls, and like, especially if you're a brand new medic, like you always feel, or at least I felt like I was always going to do something that's going to like fix this person. Like, and again, we're like short notice, but it's always like, yeah, this is this, or, and especially we deal a lot with mentally ill people, a lot of transients and whatnot,
Sure.
Long-term drug abusers type situation stuff. So, it's like sometimes you'll get these kind of stories or whatnot, and, you kind of like, oh, it's okay. If you do that, you're giving this advice, or you're trying to help them out or whatever. And then I feel like as time goes on, you kind of get a little numb to that. Not that you don't do your job, and if it's a life safety issue, you're doing everything you can to help them. But like the psychological impact, where you're those. I mean, I remember being in the back of the ambulances, like talking with people, telling them like, look, if you keep going down this route, you're not going to make it. Like you can't be doing, like, I'm talking like ODs, like multiple ones, getting like repeat patients, stuff like that. And I feel like as time goes on, I kind of became numb to that a little bit.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, yeah, I'm still going to do my job, make sure they're okay and all that stuff. But the backstory, I mean, like, hey, the future's bright, just, I feel like that kind of started to dwindle a little bit. I was curious, like, do you kind of notice that, kind of just, I don't know what you would call it. It's not burnout, but it's.
You start off really eager to help, like you're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true in almost all professions. And maybe you want to appear even more competent than you are, like, because you don't really know what you're doing.
That's true.
And that's true everywhere too.
Yeah.
But over time, you realize like there's limitations to what you can do. And I think maybe it's not burnout, but you realize what your limitations are, and what you can and can't do.
Well, I'm going to use that term next time I have to talk to somebody about why I don't appear to be as empathetic as I once was. I'll be like, I just know my limitations. I'm not going to do much more than I did.
Dr. Pam.
It's Pama is what the
Pama,
original.
sorry.
It's Dr. Pama.
Pama. No, but you bring up a good point. I mean, you're I noticed it after working. Well, I think I'm 15 years in or whatever, but it's like things just change. Your empathy starts to go down. Even simple calls where somebody's like, oh,
Yeah.
my leg hurts, like whatever, and it's not like you're trying to, but gosh, you're up day and night, and like your career is just dealing with everyone's worst problem.
Yeah.
And it's like it just numbs you a little bit. I'm sure that has to happen to the corrections officers and even your personnel.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing. Like, how do you kind of like weigh that, and try to keep the empathy, but keep professionalism, but also, not be like, oh, another call.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I still struggle with that too. I think part of it is realizing that a lot, not all, but a lot of the inmates that are in prison, especially doing life, I don't want to call it privilege, but they did not grow up in the same environment that we did.
Yeah.
There's a lot more trauma. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of abuse. There's a lot of drug addiction with their parents. They're raising themselves. They're like raised by wolves, and then they join a gang, and that's it.
So that's almost like their family, right?
Yeah.
They have something they can feel a part of.
So part of it is learning, like, it's not empathy in the normal sense. A lot of them haven't learned boundaries. So they don't understand, like, when I'm walking to your building and I'm running an errand and I have to drop off some paperwork, don't yell at me when I'm crossing the yard. That's unprofessional. They don't know that.
I see.
And if I say it nicely or sweetly, it's going to get taken the wrong way. So I have to say it in a way that they can understand, right? Almost like a check.
Yeah.
Like, please don't do this again, or this is what's going to happen. And I don't say please.
Right.
But I'm looking at you, so like I want to say please.
Right. Yeah. Gosh, what a tough environment to work in. Now, something I've kind of always wondered, and maybe you can hit on this pretty good, but you always hear about, they're all about rehabilitating the inmates, getting them back so they can go back into society. And I've heard this from people, because you have all these conversations like, that's BS. That's impossible. They're criminals. They're going to be that way for the rest of their life. Screw them. Not everyone thinks that way. I don't feel that way. But can these inmates really be rehabilitated and back to normal where people can trust them and they can go back in society? Or is this just kind of like a facade type thing? Like, well, we're just checking a box. We're going to try and rehabilitate them. They did their time. They're out. They're gone. I mean, is that something? Have you seen it where they actually do change?
Yeah, I feel like there's categories of inmates. Like, there's some few and far between that'll come in for a first term and they'll be like, oh no, this is never happening again. And they'll get on the straight and narrow. And then you have like the repeaters that come in for like short terms that are just like drug addicted or petty theft or they're transient. And those people will keep coming back. I've seen people come in 10, 11, 12, 13 terms.
Oh my gosh.
And they're not even like 40, so how does that happen? But the lifers, that's a whole other group. Once the guys hit about 50 and that testosterone drops, you see some big changes and they start becoming more motivated. And if you can get them into a good group, like group therapy, and really work on their trauma, building insight and building empathy and like what that looks like, we've seen some great stories. And in fact, there's an inmate right now that I treated about 10 years ago in a lifers group. And his story is so compelling that there's a woman who wants to make a documentary out of it. She works at NYU as a journalist.
Oh, excellent.
And she's making a podcast series. And she's interviewed him already. She's interviewed his victims. And then she wants to interview me. And, of course, I need permission, which it's, like, impossible to get because of confidentiality and HIPAA. But it's really an amazing story of forgiveness. And it's really not about him. It's really about this victim that has chosen to forgive him for what happened. And the crime is so heinous, I don't even want to talk about it. But he put in the work,
really,
to try to make things as right as they could be.
I think that I think everyone deserves a second chance. Now it's what you do with it, right? Mm-hmm. Are you going to put in the work? Are you going to realize that?
Are you sincere?
Right. You made a mistake. You impacted not just your life and changed yours forever, but you changed other people's, right?
Yeah.
I think everyone deserves a second chance. I think there's a possibility, but you always meet those people like, they're criminals forever. They're in jail. Forget them. It's like, well, I mean, I'm sure when you do something wrong, you want a second chance. People to forgive you too, right? Yeah. It's just our system.
Yeah.
I tell people like, hey, look, you can change. You can become a good person, but you still need to pay the time for the crime that you did. Like, that's with anything anyone does, right? You decide to, I don't know, punch somebody in the face in public. That's assault. You're gonna probably get in trouble. It is what it is. But then you go to jail, whatever, you get in trouble. But maybe
Did you do that?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no.
All right.
I'm a lover.
Wondering
not
if
a
you're
fighter.
speaking from personal.
No,
experience.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah. Same.
But yeah, they go to jail, right? They realize, oh, you know what? I made a huge mistake. I'm never gonna do this. Like you said, people will go and they're like, whoa, this is kind of like, all right, this is a check.
Reality check.
I'm gonna get my life back together. Okay. So you've probably seen a lot more than.
I always have my antenna up for inmates that want to do the work, and I'm happy to do that work with them
That's
if
awesome.
they want to do it.
Wow.
But I will shut you down if you come at me
I
sideways.
believe that. Yeah, I believe that.
I think you just have to. I mean, it's gotta be like, it's like you're all or nothing,
Right.
and you don't have time to waste for the bullshit.
Yeah.
But then it's like, but even like you were saying, like you have to adjust on how you're talking. Like you're not saying please, you're
Right.
not saying it softly. You probably have to be stern, and everything is super directive,
Right.
right? Because I feel like
When you think about a therapist, like that's not what a therapist is. Imagine if you
Right.
came to my office and I was like that.
you're like, tell me about your father
Now.
now. I was like,
I probably never
how
come
long
back.
are we supposed to do this for? No, that's super interesting. That's a different perspective of therapy, right? For that, but I mean, it's got to feel rewarding for the ones that you do make
Yeah.
breakthroughs with, or you were like, hey, you got them on the right path and they're not back. That's got to be really cool to be a part of that. Is there like, I guess I've been trying to like formulate how to ask this, but do you see like, I know you listed a couple things, but like the common threads of why a person would be in jail, or maybe the multiple time offenders is like what you're talking about?
Yeah, those are the main
Listed.
ones.
That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Foster care, I think it's like 70% of everyone who's been in foster care is now in prison.
So it pretty much starts from childhood.
Yeah.
Is how we all formulate
Yeah.
and how we make our decisions and how we interact with people and our emotions of empathy and love and anger and how it's processed.
Self-control, boundaries.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because I say that because I go to therapy. I talk about her a lot. I think, I'm a huge advocate for mental health, especially for our first responders going in and just talking to somebody. Like I think I just started that probably, 3 years ago. And I
By the
remember
way, does yours do EMDR?
yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And brain spotting.
Good.
Life-changing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Huge.
Yeah.
I haven't hit on it too much here before. I've talked about a little bit. Yeah, I do brain spotting, all this, but
What's your favorite resourcing, like relaxation?
for me, it's the EMDR music.
Mm.
Yeah, she's like, your homework is every day you're going to sit or lay down and you're gonna like put headphones on and listen to EMDR music and just close your eyes and relax. And my goodness, it brings so much peace. And I try to explain to people, and I always tell them like, I'm too basic. I can't I need to have a better way of describing how this works. But yeah, can you actually talk about EMDR so people understand that?
So EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It started with a psychologist named Francine Shapiro in New York, and she was sitting in the park one day and she was upset. And I don't know if she was like chasing a squirrel with her eyes, or I don't know what happened, but she noticed that when she moved her eyes back and forth that she felt better.
Oh, really?
That's how it started.
That's how that started.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
in like the 80s.
Wow. And so
And-
she developed that.
And so the traditional EMDR uses eye movement, so I would move my hand back and forth and you would track it.
Yeah.
But you can also use tapping, like tapping on your own body. You can use audio stimulation where the music is coming in, the ears one at a time.
Yes. It feels like it's going through your brain. It's weird how they do that. Like the music kind of like, it goes this nice mellow beat and it's like, it just feels like it's traveling from one side of your head to another, but it's like going through. It's rad. I don't know how to explain it right, but.
I was like, I want to try this immediately.
We can do it right now.
Well, I got it off of.
All right, EMDR me.
Well, I got it off of iTunes. Yeah, she said just put EMDR music.
There's some good
Oh,
stuff
so you can find
on,
it-
Yeah, YouTube. If you just put in EMDR music, or they call it bilateral stimulation, BLS. Yeah, you'll find some like hour-long songs, and you just, as long as you're wearing headphones, it'll work.
Dude,
Okay.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's done a lot for me, man. Even the brain spot. Is brain spotting kind of the same way?
Not really, but it's similar. Brain spotting is like when we're upset, we tend to like look in one direction. This is my understanding of it, and I'm not trained in it, but we tend to look in the same place, like our eyes go to the same spot. And the brain spotter's job is to help you realize where you look. And then once you just put your eyes in that spot, you're able to sort of retrieve and process old stuff better.
Yeah. Yeah. I have noticed that for myself. And it's worked wonders for me. And it's hard. I'm glad you came on here and talked about it, because I always try to talk to certain people who I trust, at least, that I'm doing that, and it's made such a huge difference for me, from dealing with things, working as a firefighter for as long as I have, to even issues in personal life, devastation and loss.
Yeah.
And it's done such a great deal in like replacing that hurt with like, we'll be all right. We're going to make it through this.
And actually, I went to my EMDR training after I interviewed you.
Oh, really?
So now that I'm thinking back to our episode, I'm realizing, like maybe the divorce was connected to your brother.
Yes.
And that was like, we call it a touchstone memory. Like,
Yeah.
The two were connected.
Oh, yeah. She was saying, I remember my therapist says, like, you have to start working on not connecting different events in your life where there was loss and pain to anything that's happening now. Brings up all those emotions and makes it like 100% worse.
It's like the same thing is happening again.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened again. It's like, no, it's not. This is a separate incident, and that's I'm just a huge proponent on the mental health side, and telling people, like one of our guests, Kyle Conforti, he's been texting me back and forth. He's like, hey man, like, I hear you talking about mental health. I think I need to check this out. Boom, perfect. Here's the number. Check it out. Like, it's good for. He was always kind of like, I don't need that. I don't want to. But he's like, I hear you talking about it all the time. I feel like I need to give it a shot. I'm like, dude, I think it's great. I think everybody should. It shouldn't be taboo. I think it's okay to seek help.
I'm going back myself. I mean, we're not immune.
Right.
Yeah, I've been to therapy lots, and I'm going to go back.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what so is your podcast hit on that a lot, as far as, is it mental health in law enforcement?
So my goal is to make each episode as if it's our intake session.
Okay.
So like with you, we took your whole history, and I want to make sure we pinpoint all of the trauma and all of the critical incidents that impacted you.
Yeah.
And then to normalize that, like, we all have that. All of us have that. We all have personal traumas. We have work-related traumas. Yeah. And we all need to go to therapy. Like, we have very, very hard jobs. All of us do in different ways. So, and there's nothing wrong with going. So each episode is supposed to show, like, this guest has probably more shit than you realize.
Yeah.
And they've gone to therapy, and they're doing better now.
Gosh, dude. Everyone, please tune into her podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dr. Pama.
Dr.
I mean, if you're going to rebrand, it's a good name.
Yeah, I might.
Okay, so you are doctorate. What led you into that? Is that something, like, when you started college, you're like, I'm going to go for my undergrad. Were you thinking, I'm going all the way to the top, I'm going to get my PhD? Or did you kind of start, you're like, I'm going to keep going and get my master's. And then you finish your master's and you thought, hey, I'm going to keep going and just get my PhD, because, my goodness, a PhD program, that shows some serious dedication and brain power.
I knew that there was nothing I could have done with a bachelor's or a master's.
In your field of work?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
really?
It's either all or nothing. Like, you go all the way or you don't go.
And that's in psychology?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So you have the
It
best
would have been a
opportunity.
waste.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So in order to do well in your career field, like, you need to have a PhD.
In order to be a licensed psychologist, you have to have a doctorate.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long did your doctorate take?
10 years.
10?
Well, with all of it together, not just the doctorate, but all the schooling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not a 10-year doctorate.
Yeah, I was like,
It's still 10 years of committing
10 years
to
of my
the
life.
process. Yes.
To answer your question, I probably had a need to achieve, to be admired, or I guess loved by my parents, if you want like the deep explanation.
oh yeah, give it to me.
But now that I'm in it, I realize like it's so much bigger than that. So
Now you have to publish a paper every year.
no,
No,
not at all.
I thought doctors have to do that.
We
Am I
had
wrong?
to publish a dissertation at the end of the doctorate, but that's it.
What was your dissertation on?
Juvenile sex offenders and how to assess their risk level for recidivism
So
with the given instruments we had at that time.
So you had to go to these juvenile facilities and talk and interview some of these juveniles, right?
Not for that, but I had worked with them before.
Okay.
My dissertation was only focused on the risk assessments that we had, and like the validity and how they were used, and if they could accurately predict risk, given the outcomes of what came later for those guys.
Wow. And how long did that take to get your thesis done? I mean, you work on it the whole time you're doing your doctorate, or is it a certain portion?
You're working on it like the last 6 months that you're in class, and then you work on it during your internship. So it's about a year and a half.
So it's a year and a half research, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And then once you get that done, don't you have to go up to a board and defend it? Am I thinking something?
Yeah, some are like that. Mine wasn't like that, but we had different hurdles along the way. Like you may not have heard of this. Like our first year, all of our professors sat us down and they were like, Ashley, you seem kind of angry. And they would like analyze us in front of us and like give us feedback. But it was loving, and I knew they meant well.
Yeah.
But they would tell us like, you seem a little like hostile and angry. And we think, maybe you should work on that in therapy. And most people would be like,
Yeah.
peace out.
Yeah, but like,
you got a
okay.
problem, bro.
Yeah.
So, I went to therapy and I'm like, yeah, they're right.
Wow. And did you think, is that, again, now that when you went to therapy, was that realizing like you had stuff from childhood you had to deal with? Or is it the current situation?
I think grad school for us, it's like they break you down. It's like the military, and then they like build you back up. And therapy is definitely a part of that.
Wow. Dang.
So this is when you turn in the dissertation's like the final, right, of going in. And they're just like, like you said, they grill you. And then they're like, and you need probably to get in some therapy as well.
Yeah.
Did they give you a grade, or you had to redo?
Pass, fail, yeah. Either it's good or it's not.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. I remember my
mind bender
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
yeah, my chair took a look at my first edit or my first version of it, and he's like, "You're not graduating on time." He literally emailed that to me, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna show you."
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. You said that's fuel to the fire, huh?
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
The
Very
old
good.
chip on the shoulder, it works wonders.
Okay, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on, bitch.
I'm gonna show you why. Yeah, I'll show you why I'm supposed to be here.
Dang.
Wow, that's so awesome because I'm like I told you earlier, but I'm working on my master's. I got like 7.
But it sounds boring. I was learning about like, right?
It really. I mean,
Isn't it boring?
What?
Like human
Papers? Of
resources
course.
stuff?
yeah, my
No,
class
like
right now is like human resource.
business.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
organizational leadership.
Boring.
It's not really fun. It's not. I'm not really interested in it. So it makes it
Organizational
tougher.
leadership.
Yeah.
You can't say that and make it sound cool. So it's probably, it's important.
Yeah.
100%.
I just want to get it done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm like because then
But it doesn't like feed your
no
soul.
no
you
it does
have to
not.
try.
You know what
You're like
feeds-
you have to put effort into staying focused
Yeah.
because it's not just one of these things where you're like, oh, this is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. You know what, Pam.
That's Dr. Pam.
Yeah,
Dr. Pam, you.
Dr. Ashley. No, I'll tell you what feeds me. I love conspiracy theories. I love the unknown. I love talking about other life outside of the universe. I love the curiosity of life. What are we? What are we doing here? What's the cosmos doing? There's got to be more than just going to work and coming home and paying bills, going to sleep and repeat and do it again.
I have that mental vortex sometimes where I'm like, wait, we're on Earth. Earth is in this galaxy. And then I start like, my mind starts spinning and then I'm like, fuck. I'm like, what am I?
Right? Yeah. Exactly. I'll get on that sometimes. And I've talked about it here, but you might have seen it, but that there's a picture from the Hubble telescope. I love science and space, so I follow. My niece is into it too, so it's really fun. We'll send each other stuff on social media. But the Hubble telescope took that picture of Earth before it left our galaxy, or whatever you want to call it. And so they sent a message to it. Took like, I don't know, months or something to get there. So they had the camera turn around before it left our, whatever you want to say, universe or Milky Way galaxy, and it said, take one last picture of Earth. So it took the picture. Took forever to come in. When they got it, they're like, well, you can't even see Earth. But off of, there was a beam that was coming off one of the solar panels from the sun hitting it, and in that beam was this little blue speck, and that's Earth. It's called the pale blue dot. And I have it saved in my phone. I love looking at that picture because it gives me so much perspective. And it's like, it starts to blow your mind. You're like, whoa, like the universe is huge. And on that little speck in the picture within that beam of light is a smaller speck, me. And it's like, whoa, this is like, it gives you a heavy feeling like, man, what really is going on out there? And I saw this other thing from, NASA put it up, and it's like they start at Earth, and it was all digital, and they're like, all right, here, boom, we zoom out, here's the Milky Way galaxy, here's ours, and they keep going and going out and going out and going out, and I'm like, wait, there's billions of galaxies that are just like ours? This is insane. Yeah. The universe is huge. It's just like it sits there, and I'm like, I need to have a freaking.
If you were
sip of whiskey
taking
right now, this is
classes
crazy.
about that, you would be enthralled with school.
I would love it.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Just
So that's
trying
how
to
you can push through.
Conceptualizing in infinite.
Yeah, it's hard. You're just kind of like.
Can't.
Because we don't know where does space end. Nobody knows, right?
Yeah.
Then we have black hole. It's crazy. I watched this whole like hour video on the like 3 or 4 different types of black holes.
Yeah, that's a trip though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's Ghislaine Maxwell?
Because laying back.
Talk about that.
Oh, let's go.
You're damn right. We can talk about
you know
that.
what, Dr. Ashley? I'm gonna say, how is she still alive?
Isn't she still on suicide watch? Like,
Well,
against her will?
Yeah, but they're saying they wake her up like every 2 hours. It's crazy.
yeah.
Like they were trying to say it's abuse, but I don't know.
There hasn't been a lot of new.
You know what they do?
information
They have
lately.
to. They take their flashlight and they go in the window of the cell, and they point it in to make sure they have living, breathing flesh. That's policy.
Okay.
So that would wake anyone up if you had a flashlight pointed at your face every 2 hours.
I'm just gonna ask you. Do you think Epstein killed himself? There's so much wrapped around that.
This is a really complicated question.
Yeah, there's so much wrapped in that. Oh,
Physically.
I told you. So I
Physically.
developed a suicide prevention training around him.
oh you did?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
for our staff because I feel like it was an entertaining way to like teach risk factors for suicide. And so he's based on his factors. So he's white, he's over 50, he's single, he's facing a life sentence, he's a sex offender. Like I could keep going. He's the classic high risk. But then I watched that documentary about like the way his neck was and like the injuries, and I thought, that's unusual too. But a lot of inmates do kill themselves that way. Like they'll just use their body weight to hang off the edge of the bed.
Yeah.
They don't hang in the classic sense anymore.
No, it's just enough to
They just
put
lean
enough pressure
forward.
on.
Yeah.
You pass out, and then you'll restrict enough
That's
to
it.
your arrest.
Yeah.
Well, you really
But-
got to be at the end of your rope to do that. That's pretty dark.
But the autopsy is what screws their story, is because what came out with the way that he died. Just the
Like the way something
medical
was broken.
report,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't jive with that sort of just a standard. I shouldn't say standard, but just like the way that probably more common that people hang themselves, like you said, from a bedside or even something real low to the ground, but you can still do it.
Sure.
He had like blunt trauma.
Right.
Right. So that, I mean, yeah, just go with the story with the guards left and the tape timed out.
It was too
and
convenient. It was just too
and
convenient.
for such a
man.
high profile person that was going against, not just him being a human trafficker / sex offender.
Sure.
It was the connections that he had, right? The black book, the list
That we
of
still
everyone.
don't know anything about.
I know.
Or-
all the names
What?
in there.
Like,
oh my god.
Everyone who's associated
Oh
in there
my
is not
God.
being investigated in. This is weird.
I think Bill Clinton had like 90% of the flights, man.
Okay, Jeffrey, you got that book. I'm gonna need that back. Real
He has the
quick.
best Bill Clinton voice. I love it.
Dude.
I don't know because my thought is you have that book and he knew powerful people worldwide.
Yeah.
So the amount of dirt he had on people. I mean, you got to think that. Let's be real, right? There's people, money and power. You can pretty much do whatever you want.
Yeah.
They can get things done.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? The Clintons
How
have
many
like
times did
42
they try?
friends. 42 friends that killed themselves.
Yeah.
You've counted.
It's over 40 now.
It's over
It was
40.
at 39 up until last year.
Yeah,
Wow.
Clinton body count.
yeah.
I'm not saying these are alleged. I'm not saying it's real. I don't say, and I really hope that it's not. But again, these convenience type scenarios, then people just go. It just raises questions.
I
That's
know.
all I'm
You
getting
work
at.
in the corrections. Come on.
Like,
Like,
look,
we're the guards at the time. How is it convenient the cameras don't work? No one's around.
Okay, let me say this. We have cameras in my facility. They're not on. And they don't work right now.
So my tax
also-
dollars aren't working.
It's right, or mine.
Thanks, Gavin.
It's very common for people to sleep on graveyard. So that's not unusual either.
Okay.
But what facility was he in? Was it Rikers or somewhere else?
I don't
Oh, you want to look that up?
Yep.
I know it's in New York somewhere, but
Because I know right now the jail system, not the prison, the jail, the pre-adjudications, they are being run by the inmates. Like they are really badly staffed. People quitting right and left. Like it's a dangerous place to be. if
is
you're
that in New
staffed
York?
In New York City,
Well, it seems lawless over there right now.
Yeah.
It seems like,
inside the jail,
yeah.
like they're running it. Like
It
they
se-
tell people if they can come in or not. The inmates.
Get out of here.
No, I'm serious. I know
What?
people that work in there. Yes.
You know what I want to know? How are inmates having Instagram and taking videos and cooking up gourmet meals and all this stuff? I'm like, I see these videos online. I'm thinking, how does that happen?
That's for your next interview.
Yeah.
With Bane.
It's crazy. But I mean, when you have a state like New York that doesn't back law enforcement or just straight up having law and order, what do you expect is going to happen?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, did you see the video during the pandemic of a dude he was on a New York bus with a flamethrower?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, he was just up there just flamethrowing. I mean, people are getting robbed, but you can see, like, same with San Francisco, everyone's leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have law and order. That's just the way it is,
Yeah.
or it's going to be lawless, and you're seeing the fruits of that right now.
Yeah.
And people are leaving I went to San Francisco last year, and that was the first time ever being there that I saw so many for rent signs, especially of those taxpayer buildings where you have a business down below, living apartments up top. Even down below, it's for lease, for rent. And then they're saying like it's like first time in 70 years in New York, rent's gone down.
So we drove into San Francisco last weekend. And
Hey.
I'm like, yeah, I'm not taking my cars. We'll take your car. Because remember those videos where like people would leave their windows down because they didn't want to get them broken into?
Yeah, it was
People
like
could just go in
Yeah.
and take what they wanted.
It's just like, take this shit.
Yeah.
Leave my car,
Yeah.
please. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. I think it's very odd, but I feel like it's just, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that changed, and I get it. And I'm not a law expert at all. And I know there's always a cause and effect to everything, and you're not going to make everyone happy with any decision. But when they changed the law for like possession charges, which I actually agreed with the possession charge one, but it's never like one individual thing. It's always like a group of stuff. So, but it was the
Every misdemeanor now.
well, yeah, right. Because now it's like if you used to have a joint on you, that could potentially land you in some serious trouble. Whereas now it could be dismissed as a misdemeanor charge for possession as long as it's in the parameters of how much that you have on you. But the other part of those legislation pushes were the amounts of whether it's stolen items or like cost value and what is a misdemeanor or not. And it was up to, it's like a couple grand essentially, that if you stole and got caught, it'd be a ticket.
It's like $950.
Is it $950? For some reason, I kept thinking it was $2,000. But either way, just shy of $1,000 is a lot of money, So it's like you see the like videos of people just robbing convenience stores and just taking shit and walking out with a big old bag, and it's like, I'm not here to judge anyone individually on like, maybe that person has reached the end of the line and they said, F it, I'm going for it, I have nothing, I'm gonna take it. I mean, there's a certain bit of me that can go, well, I'm not in that position, and if it was make or breaking me being able to feed my family, you bet your ass I'm gonna rob some stores and make sure my family has food.
Survival of the fittest, man.
100%. But the other part of me is like, well, they're not stealing food.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're not stealing like, hey, I took 6 gallons of milk, a couple loaves of bread, some peanut butter and jelly, I have some lunch meat. Well, this is going to last us a couple weeks. I'm sorry, I owe you like $300 now. No, it's like you're stealing fucking shit, like non-food, just whatever, and makeup, cell phones, anything that you can basically flip for cash. And it's like, okay, I'm not saying that like, I don't know what the answer is, but I don't feel like that's the right thing to do, to just be like, slap on the wrist. Because to me, that person's not going to change. You know what I mean? Like
There's
if you
no consequences.
Right. And and again, like, there's obviously variations and degrees of everything. But when there's supposed to be like when the corrections is supposed to change or correct the behavior, right? So it's like, okay, you get a ticket, you're in trouble, whatever the process is for you to maybe like, okay, I ain't doing this anymore, and now you don't moving forward. I think to me, like if you had the cojones to go jack $900 worth of whatever and just waltz on out, knowing that no one's going to stop you. If a cop pulls you over or finds you, and you're like, okay, this will be $200, or you can try to fight it. That person to me is probably not going to go, I shouldn't do this anymore.
They're not going to take it serious.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They'll be like, you're going to call your buddies and go, dude, They're not bullshitting. They really don't. You could
Yeah.
take up to 900. I'd be like, if I was going to do it, I'd take it up right to the cent. Right? That's with tax, just in case they try to screw me.
With tax.
Yeah. I'm not condoning stealing.
Sounds like you put a lot of thought into this.
Just right now.
Yeah.
But,
You're just thinking about it.
yeah, I'm always a worst case scenario guy,
No, since being in, what you do for a living, I'm sure you know about PTSD, at least in public
I don't know
service.
anything.
Just a little bit.
Nothing.
But is there a definite link between PTSD, depression, and then like our first responders who are unfortunately making a permanent decision to a temporary problem, meaning taking their lives?
Yeah.
Is there? Because I really want our first responders to hear this, the ones that listen, the importance of like understanding like PTSD is a thing, and you need to speak up, and it's okay to get help because there's a link to this that could really impact your life. And because we're seeing, you see a lot of divorces, broken relationships, homes.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's other factors, right? We don't know everyone's personal life and how the relationship is, but you know that what we deal with at work has to play into that. So there has to be a link to all that, right?
Well, I think the most misunderstood concept about PTSD is, and it used to be looked at this way, but even by us in our field, is it's not like you have to be a first responder at 9/11. You don't have to experience a major life event, like a major massacre or a major tragedy, to be diagnosed or to have PTSD. Like for most of us, it's like the subtle stacking of like the day in, the day out, the incidents that don't even stand out, where it slowly builds up over time.
Yeah.
Then it leads to insomnia, it leads to irritability, it leads to isolation, pulling away from loved ones, and it leads to fatigue. Like those things build up, and then eventually you're a totally different person. And you don't even realize that you're anxious, or that you're not sleeping, or that you're depressed, or that you're thinking about eating your gun.
Yeah.
It just builds up very slowly. So yeah, I just want to encourage people, like, you don't have to experience something huge to have PTSD. Like, I go into a prison every day. That's very hard.
Yeah.
And even if I don't see any major incidents in there, it's still hard, and it still wears on me.
Yeah. Gosh, again, I'm gosh, I don't want to say praise, but I'm so thankful for what you're doing. I think it's you're making an impact on people's lives that's gonna last a lifetime. And who knows? It's like that ripple effect, right? To the water or the rock into the lake, and just keeps going out. And I know it's made a world of difference for me. So I have such high respect for what you're doing, because it's also got to be really tough to do that job.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. That's a lot of time and effort, and to go into what you go into is. Dude, kudos on you, man. It's freaking radical.
I couldn't do what you do, so kudos to you.
It's
guys.
just water on fire. A couple Band-Aids here and
That's
there. It
all
is
it
what
is.
it is.
I think it's really what you guys just said was there was a great point in there, is that the connection with PTSD, and I don't know, I really never have heard this. Like, we just talked about what you just said, and I found that so interesting, because when that term started to come out, my only association with PTSD was like a war veteran who had suffered a significant injury.
Shell shock.
Yeah, or just really anything along those lines, like any kind of permanent damage done to them. And then as with pushing of therapy and the potential of getting help, stuff like that, still with the association of PTSD, because that's, and like you're saying, like it's not just one thing it did it. It could be the accumulation of over time and whatever that is. And I'm really glad we're talking about this, because I feel like a lot of people probably have that stigma towards it. It's almost like I wish they would have like changed the term or something to not make it as like, because if you're like, I have problems with this, and then someone tells you have PTSD, you're probably like, no, I don't. Like I was never off to battle. I never, anything like that. And it's like, no, that's not what this is about. It's about, this is how you accumulated this over time to have that.
I mean, if you
going
want
on.
to call PTSD like the imbalance of like the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems in your body, and being constantly hypervigilant, or being always on guard, or always being like ready, just that readiness that we all have. Like, if you guys had a bell in here that went off that sounded like something at work, like I would flinch and like I would move.
That's happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I was eating fast food. I think it was Taco Bell. And
Shame on you.
Bathroom ride.
Yeah, it was a while ago. I remember, but for us, like when at least in our previous department, I remember like when we get a call and we were out, you hear beep, 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 you know, and you're like, oh my God, you got a call. I remember I was off duty. It was like real quick, get some couple tacos, and it started going off, and I was like, I just jumped.
Ready.
Yeah, I was ready. I'm like, oh shoot, I got to go to the rig, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm off duty today. Like I'm not going anywhere, you know. It's like it was like an immediate trigger. My heart rate jumped. Like I remember I started kind of sweating. I was like, dude, I don't want to go in a car right now.
Dude, it happens to me at home all the time.
Yep.
And like this is not even hearing an actual bell, like because it's not, you know, the tones at the stations are. It's not like a ding, 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 you know, like a ringing bell or anything, but there's a certain tone to it that like I think I hear it like a lot. And not when I say a lot, not like every like hour or so, but I feel like to me, if it happens once a day, that to me is like I can't like get out of work mode, you know?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. You hear it and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And I immediately get bummed. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, you get sad.
You know, like I hear it and it's like I go, oh,
We're addicted
dude.
to it.
Yeah, because it's like I see. For me, it's normally like, I'm like I got so much shit to do, dude. I can't run a call right now. You know, like they're just real quick like that process. And you're like, no, dude, you're at home. You're like, oh, okay. I don't call myself dude to myself.
Third person.
I refer, I talk in the third person to myself, known as dude. I was a big Lebowski fan.
Sam, what do you got to say over there? You're so quiet.
No, I'm just laughing about Jordan right here. But yeah, no, I love I love the just the constant, like, you deal with inmates all day, and you deal with these people that, like you said, they're raised in these areas that, you know, we have no idea what they've been through.
Yeah.
And just because of that, it's hard for us to connect. So you have to come at them in a different way.
Yeah.
Or otherwise they're not going to respond. When you said that, that hit me hard, you know, because I think that's how we all are. Like, we all have to
Be
kind of
your level.
right, you know, at each other's level, you know. But because we're out here and, you know, we're like the general public, we kind of already, you know, we have these unspoken rules, you know, that we all abide by. But because they're in a facility and they're, you know, behind closed doors, because of something they did, you know, we have to treat them completely different. And there's nothing that's just how it is. And that's how it always will be, you know, for that reason.
Thanks, Sam. That's what I'm talking about, baby.
I couldn't see you, but I heard you, Sam.
The ring lights are just blowing your face out right now.
You're like,
I'm gonna have a sunburn later. God.
It's
Gotta have good lighting in here, man.
Yeah.
No, one thing too that I noticed, at least my therapist encouraged me to keep doing, is like when I get off duty, like today, I have to, like, instead of come home relax, I go and I surf. I move. Yeah, I have to do something physical. And I don't listen to music. I just gotta either go for a trail run, or run on the riverbed, or cycle. And sometimes it's an hour. Sometimes I'll cycle for 4 hours. I'll run for 2 or 3. Go surf for, you know.
You got that ADHD energy.
Oh man, do I really?
Yeah, you do.
Let's go, dude. I need some medication.
Have you heard his episode when he came on my show?
I have not heard all of it, no.
Yeah, you were talking like a mile a minute.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be honest with you. I was out at a party drinking before I went on your podcast. Sorry.
Just alcohol?
Yeah, just alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a Christmas dinner.
What else do you drink?
Yeah.
I don't,
Well, flip this one on you, Doc. No, I'm just playing. From the sound, you know, I mean, like if you're diving in a lot to your personal life, I think, you know, especially not like having a super bond yet. I feel like I would talk fast too,
I was a little nervous.
just because I'd be nervous.
was
Like,
it.
being
Yeah,
on there,
it
I'd be
was a
like,
little
"Yeah, so anyways,
nervous."
back in the, you know, like
Yeah,
that feel
because
a little bit.
it was different. It's different when you're on someone else's podcast or show. You're kind of like, whoa. Usually I'm talking, and you kind of have a flow.
You're kind of like fielding, like what's happening here.
Yeah, and then
my role.
now I'm in the hot seat. I was like, oh my god, like here we go, dude. We're gonna dive in right now. But it was I had a really good time. I really did. I mean, you're a great host. I really hope people, at least from our audience, tuned into your podcast because it's enlightening. It's really good.
2 things I want to say. The things you're doing after work, think about it. You're doing bilateral stimulation with your body by moving it. Think about it. You're cycling and your feet are moving one side at a time, or you're running and your feet.
Right.
Yeah, so you are doing a form of BLS by being active. The other thing I want to say is it's really hard to find people to come on any podcast, well, for me especially, that aren't already doing something like this. Like, you have an openness to sharing that most people don't because you're already sharing a little bit. But But like for people that aren't open like this normally, it's hard to get them to come on and talk about some deep shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You got to think it's now you're having to dig into things that have hurt you, that are uncomfortable, that you're going to have to kind of relive. But for me, I've learned that digging in, and it's almost like working on a weakness instead of your strength, and going back to those places. For me, it's almost like it's unlocked something where now I don't have this kind of burden or something in the back that feels just like a weight that's kind of holding you back. And you realize acknowledging it and talking about, you know what, this was messed up. This did cause problems. This really hurt me, or I really made a mistake here. I need to get this out and talk about it, and then leave it there in the past, and either forgive yourself or whatever it may be. And for me, like being on this podcast, it's the most open I am. I would definitely publicly. Now with people in regular life, I'm not open. It's really weird. I'm very careful like who I consider friends and close, because I always say people suck. I have been backstabbed so many times by people, man. To say you're a friend, it's like, nah, they're not. But doing this podcast and being on yours, and then linking up with other people who are willing to talk about either tough times in their life, divorce, loss of a loved one, or dealing with PTSD, you start realizing you're actually like helping each other and you're healing. And for me, it brought more perspective, and realizing I'm not alone in what I'm dealing with. Like, I'm not a weirdo. I'm not, different than everybody. Like, everybody's dealing with something. So everybody's got something going on. And to keep that tucked away, it's going to come out in something else. And I didn't realize I was coming out in relationships or with family and even in work, where you just, like you said, something happens and you just, boom, you snap. You're like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, what is that? And then even realizing I never thought I had childhood trauma. And, when I think of like childhood trauma, it's like a parent who's just yelling at you, or it's like, no. It's like things that you weren't validated, not being listened to, or, seeing things that your parents fight, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. And then I remember going to the therapist, like, no, we're not going to start with, your accident at work or what you've been dealing with in your personal life. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning. And I'm kind of like, what? What do you mean? We're going to talk about your childhood. I was like, yeah, it was good. No. We're gonna dig in. They start asking really good questions, the right questions that make you think. And you go back and you're like, yeah, that sucked. I didn't agree with that, but I'm a kid. You're trusting your parents, and God bless our parents, right? They're trying their best too. Yeah. It's a different generation. And you're kind of like, yeah, that's kind of what I was given. And I realized how that childhood trauma played into how I deal with friends, how I respond to partners or whoever you're dating at the time, and how you handle good times, how you handle hard, how your responses to certain things. And it's really helped me mature a lot in a way. Like it's almost like it's the self-reflection, but you're kind of like third party now looking out. And then when you start going through life, now you're making better decisions emotionally.
We call that a observing ego. When you pull out and you kind of look back at yourself now or back then.
Observing ego.
Yeah. Your ego is like pulling out and observing yourself. Like you're a third person.
Yeah, it's really, and there's so much introspective. I mean, there's so much that comes with it. That's why I try to really be a big proponent of encouraging that, just with people I trust, private life, but even on here. It's done wonders for me. It really has, to finally get to the root of why I make decision-making process that I have now, and what's going on in my life, and why I've responded. And then you change, and and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again, because I don't want to have that repeated cycle. I want to break that chain. I want it to be different. I want, when I have, at least when I have a family, have kids someday, freaking hope, that I don't hopefully cause that childhood trauma for my kids. We try our best. God, we're not perfect people. We're going to try our best, but creating a home where it's safe, where they can trust and talk to me and not try to work. Because to be honest with you, I didn't feel that, at least growing up. I didn't feel like I could talk to my parents. It was always just like, hey, what am I getting in trouble for today? You're not doing good enough. But a place where they can grow and be who they are and experience, life and being open-minded. Whereas for me, it was just like, it was a very rigid, no, it's this. There's heaven and hell. Okay, you're going to hell if you don't. It's just like everything was super stringent, So, going back to and realizing that the decision-making process, and I think a lot of people don't understand this, it starts from your childhood.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
And just to go back to Jordan's point, we have a broader definition of PTSD now. We actually call it complex PTSD. And that actually refers to the way you were parented. Like, there's very subtle ways that we were parented that actually are traumatic, like not being heard or validated or seen or allowed to make decisions. So yeah, and it very much does impact your adult life.
Yeah. I was like, man.
That was great feedback.
Yeah, no, I had to process what you just said.
Went deep
and then
here,
it was
Jordan.
silent, and I was like, yeah.
We all looked at you like, all right, what do
Here
you
we
got now,
go.
buddy?
What's going on? No, yeah, I think that, I mean, I feel like the older that I've gotten, the more, like, I've always been a very social person, and I love talking to people. And I don't know if that's maybe because within that, you kind of inadvertently get validation to maybe what you think or thought about stuff, or you learn things from different perspectives. You know, it's like this combination of different things constantly being around new people. So like when you're talking about like this show, like doing this, I totally agree, because we do have a lot of different types of people on here, or, you know, different backgrounds or belief processes, whatever. And I always am fascinated with it because, you know, it's like, what, you know, what, like I kind of come in here going, what am I going to learn today? Like kind of feeling, you know, when, I don't know if that sounds bad or not, but it's I enjoy it, you know, and I think that's, you know, kind of talking with the way you're brought up, you know, like you were saying, Tim, I mean, there's a lot of things that can stem, you know, from different events that have happened when you're a kid, or whether just the style of your parents parenting. I also grew up a very rigid household, you know, so it wasn't more along the lines of you expressing what you think about stuff. You just learn how to get what needs to get done so you can do what you want. And I feel like that was kind of like
manipulative.
Yes and no. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I associate the word manipulative with a negative thing.
Like
right?
Roxy, she's very manipulative. Your dog.
Oh, yeah,
But I love it.
I fall into that
See, that's
manipulation hard.
See, that's so interesting then. It's like, I wonder why that, because being manipulative doesn't necessarily mean a negative
Yeah, you're just
connotation.
getting your needs met.
Yeah, well, I guess then it is manipulative because, you know, it's like, I feel like there's a tie, and like especially being like a parent, you know, with two young ones at home, I get kind of like, I'll sit here and say like, yeah, I want them to tell me how they feel, and I want them to have that closeness with me, but then it's also like you have to be able to lay down the rules.
That's what I'm saying.
And they at a certain point, and like I joke around, not joke around with my wife, but I guess it's kind of a joke too, is that part of life is hard, is that like sometimes we have to do things that we maybe don't want to do, but they have to be done, right? I hate fucking paying my bills. I hate it. But they have to happen or we can't have all this shit, you know? So it's like, it's just one of those things. I mean, obviously a very simplistic example, but, you know, I kind of like, I was like, yeah, this is part of it. You know, you want to have that closeness. You want to have the open door. You want to have the ability to create the home environment where I feel like everyone in the family could be comfortable to a certain extent, for sure. But then there's the other side of it where there's a balance, you know, and I don't know if there is a right balance. You know, there's always the striving to do the best you can. And I think at the end of the day, you know, like you said, generational differences, upbringings, whatnot, you know, certain situations, we're all going to have a different outlook on that. But it's like, I feel like you do what you do in the moment, and you do, hopefully that is the best you can, you know, and not everyone has the opportunity to have parents that are doing that. You know, it's like, hey, maybe they're super strict, but like at the time it's like, well, you have parents working multiple jobs or doing everything they can to keep everything tied together. Sure. You know, even though I maybe didn't feel, or I shouldn't say even me, like, because my parents are pretty cool. Like but we've gotten a lot closer as we've gotten older. You know, because when I was younger, it was always like, you guys never want me to do anything that I want to do, you know, probably very typical teenager.
I felt the same way.
But, you know, I just think that like, there's not like a sweet spot, but there's just the best effort that you can give, you know, and the hopes is that the takeaway isn't that it was all bad, you know, because there isn't, right? You only focus on little things, like in an argument with somebody. Yeah. You're pissed off and you're only thinking about the things that are bad, and you could probably laundry list every shitty conversation that you've had with one another. But the reality it isn't always, and it's not every time, and it's not all, you know.
That's like a test taking like tactic. If there's an absolute in the answer, that's the wrong answer.
Oh. Yeah.
God,
And it's true in life.
I was like, wait, what? Really?
Hey, absolute. There's no absolutes, babe.
Try it out. Try it out.
Really?
In your
I'm
classes,
just
yeah.
kidding.
Oh my God.
There's almost no absolutes. Yeah.
Look at Sam.
Except death and taxes, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh. You know what? It's interesting. 'Cause, like, Sam, what's your thought on this? Because Sam's dad is from, he immigrated from Africa. Yeah, where do you come from again?
Africa's a continent, not a country.
Well, yeah,
Continent,
sorry.
not a country.
Nigeria.
Yeah, he came from Nigeria. Hey, Jordan. There you go, baby.
Oh.
Yeah, he's from Nigeria. So
Nigeria, okay.
also very rigid. And then especially from coming from someone that's migrated here, and he came here with the Nigerian concept of living. So he doesn't. So back up. He's a very hard worker, but in Nigeria you work and the wife and the kids do everything, and that's kind of how I grew up. But he's aware. He assimilated. Like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. But at the same time, he was super rigid. My mom followed him, but they have like a nice like synergy. They get along. Everything's been great. I felt the same way as you, Jordan. I don't. Oh man, growing up was crazy. It's very, very rigid. Very, you do this, and with me, I kind of got scared to do anything outside of the house. So my parents constantly they were like, oh my God, you're always wanting to do these bad things. And I would think, wow, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't even I rarely did anything outside of the house. Didn't have very many friends because I was far from school. I don't know if you remember, Tim, but
Yeah, oh yeah.
I wasn't close to school. And then I lived in an area where there were a lot of just people that were older than me. So, I didn't have any friends at the house. So very rigid and very quiet. So I was constantly by myself. Couldn't watch TV a lot of the time, like particular movies, a lot of movies, if they had curse words or cartoons or, so it was a lot of drawing and comics and things like that. And I see that. It's so crazy. I see that today, like how I am. I can be, kind of secluded. And I think I'm constantly working on being more present and more public and just getting out there and, not being so private and quiet. It's a constant struggle, but I think like we were talking about, pulling back and having your ego checked and just watching yourself, you can really evolve into not a better person, but just someone different, maybe more open-minded,
Yeah.
That's my guy right there,
Sorry, I'm blind again.
It's solid, man.
I didn't see you at all.
I'm having like the halo shadow following.
I know, right?
Turn.
Gotta have that good lighting. But so everyone knows again, your podcast, it's called what again?
The Staff Assistant
The
podcast.
Staff Assistant. Okay, and is that on all major podcast
Yes.
platforms?
It's everywhere.
Beautiful. Okay. Because we want people to listen to that. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and
Thank
hanging
you
out.
for inviting me.
Yeah, you're coming back again though, and you're bringing somebody else with you. And it's gonna be a good
I
time
hope
because
so.
we are, ding ding ding, moving the studio. Let's go to even a bigger spot. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have way more people on.
Will it be dog friendly upstairs?
It will be dog friendly upstairs.
Yes.
Hell yes.
Yeah. it'll
Can
be
you
dog-
like write in your will that I'd like to be like next in line to take Roxy or something?
Yeah, there's like 4 people in front of you. Everyone loves her.
Fuck.
Everyone loves her. I'm like, what about my girl Bryn, man? What about Bryn?
Dude, Bryn's OG, bro.
Oh, she's forever stoned.
She's legit.
Forever stoned.
We do have.
She's just cruising.
we normally wrap up. We have a couple of questions.
Let's do it.
I tried to. I just picked them real quick, so I will save the deeper one towards the end there. Okay, so here, this will be a good question for you, Dr. Pama.
Yes, sir.
How old is too old to watch cartoons?
Well, I'm forced to watch every day by my current significant other, which I've just accepted.
Good for him.
I've just accepted it. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's annoying. He likes it. I try to respect that he likes it.
Do you know which show he likes to watch the most?
Bob's Burgers.
Bob's Burgers is a great cartoon.
You watch it?
I watch Bob's Burgers. I watch Rick and Morty. I watch
Love
Family
Rick and Morty.
Guy a lot,
Rick and Morty,
yeah,
baby.
a
Rick
lot.
and Morty.
Yeah.
I love cartoons. So I don't think there's an age gap or an age like
Yeah.
stop point on when you shouldn't be watching them. You know, time appropriate,
I
obviously.
can appreciate it.
I wouldn't waste my whole day watching cartoons, but when the day's over and my wife doesn't care what we're watching because she's like, you know, doing something on her phone or whatever, I'll throw that on because it's like my jail time where like it doesn't matter. I'm not thinking. I'm like, that's pretty funny. I can't believe we're talking about this shit. Like we've come a long way from Tom and Jerry and all that
Tom
other
and
shit.
Jerry's the shit. Don't talk bad about Tom and Jerry.
No, I'm not talking bad
Well,
about it. Those are great
what
cartoons.
about Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers? You guys ever watch that?
I
I still watch that. I love it. It looks it's a lot more like cheesy now watching it as an adult, like the cartoon stuff, but I still appreciate it.
Dude, well,
I love it.
Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers was a Saturday morning cartoon that came on. It was like that one. It had
Animaniacs is dope.
Animaniacs. There was DuckTales.
Yeah.
There was Darkwing Duck.
Yeah.
Tiny Toon Adventures.
Yeah.
Dude, that was a good one, man.
Yeah.
Rugrats.
Yeah. Rugrats. That was, dude.
You guys are
Doug.
a little bit younger. Did you guys watch like He-Man,
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Skeeter.
Yeah.
Smurfs?
He-Man? Oh, my gosh,
Dude,
yes,
Smurfs,
dude.
yeah.
Skeletor.
Dude, Speedy Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Dude, Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Dude was a
we don't talk about
womanizer, bro.
Pepe Le Pew on here. It's kind of a
Womanizing
little
freaking
aggressive.
skunk. Yeah,
It
like
was aggressive, no
She
doubt.
liked it.
It never seemed like she didn't at the end. Yeah. I was like, is it perseverance or is it assault? I don't know. But he really went for it.
I will say before you ask the next question, I'm sure I'm very difficult to be with, you know, being a therapist. So I feel like this is our give and take. I'll watch cartoons with you.
I love
Then
it.
I'm sure,
You're a good
he
woman.
appreciates
You're a
that.
good woman.
Then. Absolutely.
I also really like your man's humor. I interact.
funny.
Yeah, I
He's
interact a
very
lot with him over social media, and dude, this stuff he'll say in comments, I find myself belly laughing all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just because we have dark humor, which okay, let's be real, we have dark humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
Gallows humor.
Yeah, yeah. It's
dark.
because if we joke like we do, you know, in our jobs, or like I do with him over social media, we do that in front of like the regular citizens.
Oh,
They
yeah.
think we're just the most
Evil,
screwed up
yeah.
people. Like, how could you
Yeah,
say that?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, like, I'm coping. Okay, let me cope here and figure this out.
They're like, why are you laughing? They're like, well, he felt funny. They're like, it's all fucked up. You know, it's like, you can't say it out loud, but there's an appreciation there. But you have to. I mean, like, okay, let me rephrase that. You don't have to, but I think it's very common in that type of, you know, profession. Just when you're constantly around things that are sad or terrible or whatever, it's like, yeah, if you don't have some kind of jokes, and not all are appropriate. Let's get that out of the way. And I don't condone a lot of them, but it does loosen the tension a little bit. Otherwise, I feel like if everyone's just filing it away constantly, that's when you become
Yeah.
You'll explode.
Yeah, I need him in my life. There's like, I need someone that's funny.
I
like
love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Do you
I'm
have
way too serious normally.
do you have a favorite character from Bob's Burger?
You know, they're all pretty funny. What's the older sister's name that's always like crushing on a dude?
It's not Tina. Tina's
No, Tina's the younger one.
the youngest, right?
The one with the glasses.
Oh my god. Yeah, she's always like,
And she's always like daydreaming about the
Butts.
next guy.
it's butts. She likes butts on everything. She's like,
Gotta talk like this a little bit.
I think it's actually
It's a man's
a
voice.
man
Yeah.
that does,
Yeah.
or
I
does,
think they're all men except for the youngest girl.
Oh, that's right. The wife too, right? That's right. I
So great.
It's weird.
I love.
well, that was the same thing. Bart Simpson's
weird.
done by a female voice.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh wow.
I think she does.
Lisa something.
She does a handful of them on. I feel like it's kind of common with a lot of those shows. But yeah, I just actually recently heard that, and I was like, no way. Not that it changes anything. Just had no clue.
Interesting.
But on to our next question.
Next question.
If you had to choose one meat to eat for the rest of your life,
shit.
what would it be?
I feel like I could have been really inappropriate, but
Nice.
You're good.
Everyone else could assume.
I like to.
any meat. I think I would pick like tomahawk from like Fleming's or something like that.
Like a ribeye tomahawk, bone in.
Oh, I like that. Red meat.
Yeah, like fuck the turkey and chicken, just go straight for the red meat.
Let's go.
Right, the question's one meat for the rest of your life. What would it be?
Steak.
Yeah.
For me, steak.
It's just beef.
Oh,
like,
dude, yeah.
in general.
Yeah,
all
because
day.
I was on like that, you know, eating lean, and eating chicken all the time. I got so sick of chicken.
That wasn't the question. The question is, what would you want to eat?
Yeah, I just was saying I
Or what
couldn't do
should you
chicken.
eat?
Yeah, I couldn't do the chicken. It'd have to be freaking steak all the time. Steak and salad. Let's go.
You know I could do chicken. Yeah.
That's what you'd pick is chicken?
Yeah, man. Just because beef, like I don't know, man. Like it's something with beef. I don't feel the best. And chicken, like the whole lean way that what you were just talking about. Tim,
Yeah.
that's how I feel better. And that's how I live my life. I'm like, I'm not gonna feel uncomfortable.
You can see a definite difference from eating red meat to eating like chicken.
huge.
Okay.
Oh yeah, So and when I eat chicken, everything goes. The system works. It goes down. And it comes out. So that's great.
Not constipated.
Oh no.
It's good. It's good that it comes out.
Red meat.
Right? That's always good when you put stuff in and then it comes out eventually.
Yeah. Good time.
Does that make you constipated, red meat?
It's I don't know, man. I noticed that I just don't feel as good down there.
Oh, I
It's
see.
something
Down
that's
where?
Down.
Yeah,
in
can
the-
you?
in the
Give me
GI.
more specific.
Would you like me? Would you like me
What are
to
you talking about,
jump in
Sam?
front of the camera right now? Yeah.
In this area here,
Yeah,
I have a little bit of
fit in front of the
bloating,
camera.
The lower
a little
region.
farty. I don't feel as comfortable.
toot.
What's that last question?
All right, I was like, I eat red meat as well
Very good.
for life. Okay, it says, what would you pick to be the title of your autobiography?
Ooh, I like that.
Figured that was a good one to finish it on.
Wow. My autobiography. Shit. I don't even know if I can answer that. That's like asking me to write a thesis statement of my life.
It just is the title. Like, what would you like? Not like what you're going to be covering, obviously, or anything, but like the first thing that popped up. Or I'll just go first because give you a second to think.
Yeah.
Mine would be sup.
I guess I'm putting way too much thought into it.
Yeah.
Way too much. Same.
You know. I
what's funny?
already knew mine right away.
I picked that out like when we first started doing the show. So I've been thinking kind of in the background
You've
this
seen
whole
this
time.
question
I went
before.
real deep and then I thought, nope, we're going to keep it light.
You know what mine would be?
No what?
That sucked.
Whoa. How
That or just G's, man.
about just G's with like 6 G's? It's all G's.
But is that a bestseller? Jeez.
It could be.
Could be.
Okay, speaking of book, I know we're just go off top real quick, but there was a book that was a bestseller for a while. It was the book about women, and when you open it, all the pages are blank. It was like 100 pages. I always thought this is genius.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote this made a lot of money.
For
I've
sure.
never seen it. I'm like, that's a bestseller. That's rad. Good for you, bro.
I don't know what to say. Jordan, what would you call it? The title of my autobiography.
Of yours?
Yeah, just based on what you know about me, which is almost nothing, but
Yeah. Wow, way to put me in the hot seat.
I don't even know what to say.
Call it like introspect.
Dr. Pama.
Dr. Pama. An autobiography by Dr. Pama. This week on New York's bestseller is
It's gonna be held against me for a
Introspect
long
by
time,
Dr. Pama.
Sam.
So yeah, I think I would call mine because I was getting deep. Also, actually, I think I would call it evolution. Because because I'm not doing anything that I thought I would do, or like thinking the way I thought I would think, and then like I don't know, a year ago, I'm not doing stuff from then. So I'm constantly doing different things and moving in a different direction. I don't know why. So yeah,
I'd call yours the open mind.
open mind. Yeah, I like that.
Wow, I like crawl, walk, run.
I'll have to get back to you on that. I'll let you know. Yeah, I can't even answer this question. You stumped me.
Pull another one. One more. Just pull another one.
We did it! Well, this wasn't a goal, but
You
when
win.
it happened, it happened.
Well, it took us 2.5 years.
So, like, about 95% of these are not appropriate. So, just give me a second.
You know I work in a very inappropriate place.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm not saying you would be offended in any way. I don't know if we want to.
It's your show.
Okay, so here's one. This is kind of a fun one. It says, if there was a snail following you for the rest of your life, and if you touched it, you would die, how long do you think you can survive?
Oh, I definitely touch it. Not very long. Yeah,
You think so?
I think I would.
Wait, say the question again.
It says if there was a snail following you for the rest of your life, but if you touched it, you would die. How long could you survive? Meaning, like, right, if it's in constant pursuit of you, and if it made contact you with any way, that was it.
I would just get too curious. You know.
Eventually?
Yeah.
How long do you think that would take?
It would be almost immediate.
Really?
You'd be like, no way.
Because like triggering, it's like following me.
Yeah.
This is
bullshit.
Get up.
Yeah.
I would say at least 10 years for me.
Yeah.
I'd be moving too much, doing too many things for that thing to catch up for a while.
So that's my problem. I'd be moving too much, but then I'd move and fuck around and step on it and then die.
I'd keep looking
You know.
back. I'd be like, oh,
Right.
it's still there.
Right.
That's so interesting because you guys are putting yourselves in the same vicinity of this snail. I feel like once my buy-off was like, or the rationalization of, okay, if this touches me, I'm going to die. I figured I'm just going to move like a long ways away. I figured by a couple weeks, I'm a snail, right? It's like, how long does it take for a snail to like go up and over a mountain?
I would be thinking about it even if I was far away from it.
Exactly. Because
All
when you
the
move,
time.
you move like, I don't know, across.
It would mess up your
I'd
psyche,
wanna
huh?
know.
It would mess up your
I'd
psyche.
want to know where it was.
Right.
I'd want it to be closer.
Right. Because 10 years later, that shit will come and fuck you up, Jordan.
Yeah.
I would just have you go step on the snail.
Wow. But I wouldn't die because it's your snail.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
See, my luck.
No, I didn't mean like you would die. I was like, if you touch it personally, you die is how I interpret it. So I just like have someone else kill the snail
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be easy.
or put it in a box, feed it. That's probably what I would do. I would
Make it a pet.
I would make it a pet. I'd keep it in a box so it's always there with me. But now you know, so you don't have to trip out. But then you can like keep it going.
See, my thing is I would forget about it because years would go by, right? I'm like, I'm moving too fast. And then there's
Right
like
over your forehead.
Well, yeah, there's like there's a small knock at the door, you know, and I go to answer the door. Who's out there? I look down. I'm like, hey, look at this snail. Dead.
Oh, man.
That's exactly. I'm like, I could see this happening right away. I'm like, did you knock on the door, bro?
I would just salt the exterior of my house
Oh, there you go.
like a vampire, you know.
Actually, we're very deep humans on here.
I'd rather have these questions.
Full circle.
I love it. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You're definitely going to be a guest again. We'll be excited to have you back anytime, especially when we get the new studio. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
We're designing it. Jordan and I have been in talks with our sound editor, Steve, and it's going to be cool. So thank you so much for coming on, just being open and talking about difficult things that a lot of people don't want to talk about, and what you're doing, at least for inmates and changing lives and law enforcement, even with your podcast. I just respect you a lot. I really do.
Thank you.
So, friend for life, welcome on here anytime. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean everything that Tim just said. You know, I think
Ditto.
it's like just a hard ditto for here. Back to you. No, I mean it just the more things that get out there, the more potential for it, right? So if the avenue is to be able to now getting help to the people who work in the corrections facilities, you know, not just the inmates, to, you know, if it's one extra person that maybe listens and seeks help now, you know, I mean, that's a win.
Yep.
You know, so I think what you're doing is awesome, and I hope it keeps evolving and getting bigger and bigger. And, you know, maybe one day when they can reallocate some tax stuff in an appropriate manner and actually get the opportunity for individuals to have help, you know. So I think that's always the big goal, and I think it's people like you that drive that forward. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm really bad with the uncomfortable silences. I think that's what it is. I default into making some weird noise, or I like kind of like move my like. I was like, you know, do you have Tuesdays open? Because
Do you want to just stare at it?
yeah, I was like, so tell me about your childhood.
Yeah,
And be
we're
like,
going to do some stuff after the podcast.
oh man, here we go.
So
I need another bottle.
Also,
of
want to
that.
say they brought our favorite whiskey, which is Screwball.
It's our favorite whiskey.
Yeah, it's all of ours. Ours. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for bringing this. We've been sipping on this the whole time.
Yeah.
Please try this out. It's amazing. It's peanut butter. It's freaking.
We're not getting paid by Screwball though.
Yeah, no,
sure
we're not.
aren't, but it would be cool if we did.
Yeah, sponsor us, please. We'd really love that. But we should do a let's go on 3. You ready to do this?
Yeah.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Let's go.
Bye, everybody. And that's it. Thank you for listening in, everybody. I'd like to thank our sound engineer who makes this podcast happen and makes us sound very good, Stephen Clark. And to our first sponsor, 89 Barbers. Look good, feel good, be great. Come get your haircut at 2 locations, Long Beach and in Orange, California. Your appointment can be booked at 89barbers.com. That is EIGHTNINEBAB. BARBRERS. 89barbers.com. Again, look good, feel good, be great. Check it out. It's my barber. He is the man. Thanks, everybody. Bye.